Have you ever wondered what an exploding chaos house would look like? Well, neither had I until like last week. But that's what we're going to be doing today. In a continuation of my turning random concepts into houses series. I'm going to start in this lot, which is in, what's it called? That storybook world, I don't know. We got my mannequin here for scale. I'm going to start by actually doing a bit of terrain manipulation to begin with, because I wanted this to be sort of like a cottage looking thing on a lake. So I've made the lake, and I'm going to use some platforms just to sort of create a small decking area and a place where I want the actual house to be. But this week, while I'm making the house, I've been a bit slow because I've had some like migraine problems this week. If anyone has migraines and they don't know why they get them, and they're not like related to hormones or something you eat, check the barometric pressure, because I get migraines that are related to the barometric pressure changing. So when like this week the weather's been a little bit all up and down, and I get like migraines, it's really annoying. So it slows me down a little bit. So I've been a bit slower this week. And I've also been trying to do 2 builds at once, and the second build, which was an Inzoi one, has caused me absolutely nothing but stress. So that's why this video is a little bit more delayed than the usual time between videos. But here I'm just going to build this little platform area at the side of this house, which is where I'm going to decide that this explosion is going to be. And I wanted to do this. This was a little bit different to what I normally do, because it's quite sort of, is it Tudor style house? It's not Victorian, is it? It's whatever. It's old. It's really old. It's like an old cottage. So it was quite fun to do this one. There's something a little bit different, but it's not the shell here is not really the main thing, obviously. The thing here is, can I make a room look like it's exploded out of the house? And we'll get to that bit once I've sort of figured out what the shell is going to look like. I wanted to make the house, so I almost made the entire full house first, and I didn't. Well, I sort of made the majority of the house shell, because I figured I wanted to work backwards in this one. Like the concept here is obviously that like some kind of magical explosion has gone on in this house. There's like a little, maybe like a witch here who's dabbled a bit too much in magic or something like that. But I wanted to know what the house was meant to look like in order to sort of work backwards and demolish it, because that seemed like the smartest thing to do here, rather than try and just make a random explosion there wasn't much, infrastructure to go off. So I'm just putting in some balconies and things, and obviously I'm gonna make the house livable. There's gonna be, everything required in a house: a kitchen, a bathroom, blah blah blah, the living room, bedroom. There's gonna be like a library section and things. And I wanted to make sure that I did it in a way where the only bits that have exploded are the things that are required for the sim to function in here. So like, for example, don't remove the bit that the refrigerator's on and things like that. So I'm sort of just mapping it out in my head how I want this to work, and using all these nice wall pieces from Harry Coastal Collection to sort of detail these walls in the way where I enjoy placing the same item over and over and over again. And here I was a bit indecisive about the roof. But I ended up just going, I think it was literally a base game swatch for the roof, because I quite liked the texture of it. You can see I've also placed some random lettuces and things that I don't know why I did that before I started the build, but they're there. Placing a few doors in. And I should go through like the base floor is going to be a kitchen and a living room. And then the little entranceway, obviously. And then upstairs we're going to have a bathroom, a bedroom, and a library. And where you can see that empty sort of platform is on the right hand side is where the sort of origin of the explosion is going to be. So I wanted to make sure that everything that is sort of necessary in a house build and for it to function is going to be more on the right hand side of the house. But this is just detailing, adding a few more things. What else are we going to do? We're going to put in some windows, customizing the windows. I was having a lot of fun, and I was having a lot of fun placing quite a lot of pillars and things in this build, because I figured the more detail that I place and the more sort of like wall items, the more I can then start manipulating them with the tool mod when it comes to sort of creating a detonation in this build. So I am placing quite a lot of things here, and a lot of pillars and a lot of details, a lot of these wall pieces, various different windows to think about, if I was going to deconstruct a window, some balconies and things, all things that I can then later on in the build figure out how to sort of like reverse engineer a demolition of these different things. So I'm just gonna finally paint the walls because I hadn't painted the walls yet. Excuse me, I'm just having a coffee. I've just, I'm having a bit of a slow day today. I'm gonna make this platform area sort of like wooden pier. I guess it's a bit excessive to call it a pier when it's just on a little pond, but that's what it's meant to be. I'm going again with these very natural sort of like old styly textures and things. The floor is just very old cobblestone, and I used quite a lot of wood that looked a bit more weathered, a bit more worn. Just setting this pond in with the terrain painting, a bit of soil, and we'll go around with a bit of gravel in a bit. And I've done a little jump cut here because I did a little bit of foliage work, and we're going to place some rocks to really sort of like connect the pond with the platforms, because we were looking a bit square for an old build, and I wanted this to look a bit more organic than it was doing. So putting in some stones here and lowering them down with the tool mod, and there's going to be a lot of tool mod usage in this, obviously, because I'm going to be rotating all sorts of things and making it look like there's a giant explosion that's happened. But all the foliage is mostly just like, it's just live edit bits like grass and things. I want it to look quite overgrown, a little bit like the build itself is slightly unhinged, as the person who lives here is also most likely a little bit unhinged because they've caused some kind of magical explosion to happen. A few lilies and things, and because this is a smaller lot, I did want to decorate it a bit more, and we're going to set it in with a few more live edit things a bit later. But we're going to start here with this first room. This is the bit you've been waiting for. How am I going to explode a room? And really here it's just live edit. It's live edit things, and it's all of the just like base plank looking live edit objects. And I'm rotating them all with the tool mod. So I've got an angled plank, I've got like a pillar, this small one that I'm using right now, and then I'm going to rotate them with the tool mod. Really imagining the direction of where a bunch of planks and things would be sort of angled to if they'd been hit in a certain direction by an explosion. So it's all going to look very sort of outward from the center of this room. We've also got like a fence piece. This is some kind of floor or something, and again I'm going to angle that to look like it used to be a floor, and we've got the floorboards here, and the rest of them are presumably miles away on the floor from the result of this explosion. Some debris on the floor, and now I also put these random alien looking plants in as well, because I was thinking here that the concept was starting to turn a bit like maybe there's been like some kind of summoning that has gone incorrectly here, and so I've put this archway and there's sort of this summoning thing that's going on in the middle, and then these plants, and it's done this explosion from the center of whatever this light is, and it's gone like up and to the sides, and everything's just been sort of shunted out of the way and demolished in a small radius around this. The idea for this came from watching Arcane. Have I said that? When I was watching Arcane on Netflix, and I don't know any of the characters, and I don't play League of Legends, but I was watching it, and it's all about sort of like unstable arcane energy, and I just thought, what if this is a house? Which I think is a very reasonable thing to think while watching a TV series. So we're going into sort of like the second floor now, and continuing with these. I mean, they already kind of look like broken fence pieces, so I'm quite lucky that these were in the game. Obviously, I'm using them to imply sort of broken walls where most of the wall has been demolished, but there's still these remnant sort of plank pieces in it, and building those up with these singular pieces to sort of link them together and create a more custom looking broken two-story wall. So of course, none of this is actually possible without the tool mod and the better build by mode mod. I suppose that one's not as necessary. I know there is a cheat that lets you reveal live edit objects, but I don't know what it is because I just used the better build by mode mod to be able to click on the show me the live edit toggle button. But the tool mod here is really is the only thing that's allowing me to rotate these things in a way that it's not just keeping it to their sort of base orientation of what each item is meant to be. So if you don't know what I'm doing right now, if you don't know what the tool mod is, it's just a mod that lets you put in different values to like rotate, scale things up and down, move them up and down on a z-axis, It really just gives you a lot of control over the manipulation of a different, each object. And there are some here that there is a limitation, because some of the live edit objects that I was intending to use for this actually don't respond to tool mod, so they wouldn't rotate. So I've specifically had to pick the ones that I've done a little test on them, and they will rotate with the tool mod. There were a few pieces I did want to use that wouldn't, so that was a bit of a shame. But just demolishing the first wall here. So I've got this archway, and my idea with this is like maybe the archway was covered up by the wall already, or there was some secret hole in it or something, and that's just completely blasted open, and the kitchen is going to end up through there on the other side. But I wanted to keep some of these more sturdier looking sort of pillars in, as if they're more like weight bearing columns or something. Rotating again to make it look like this, really as if there's something exploded and it's really all just the energy's culminated at the top and just burst the roof off or something, is what I was trying to go for here. And I also wasn't being too fussy about the angles that I was using in this, because I wanted it to sort of look a bit chaotic. And now I'm going to start this thing where I've already placed a few things around, but I wanted to make it look as if there's almost like in response to whatever explosion has gone on, there's now this leaking energy that's like forming some kind of like arcane vortex around the house, and it's lifting up all sorts of bits and pieces, and it's creating this sort of like whirlwind. And I'm sort of implying that here with these large floor panels that I'm going to arrange to make it look like they're all just spinning and flinging around the house, sizing them up and down. And I was being quite pernickety about this because I wanted the camera angles to look quite nice, but this was quite fun just randomly typing in numbers, because obviously a lot of the time when I'm using the tool mod, I'm having to be very precise with it to line things up with another object. But with this, I was literally just typing any old number. There was like 57, 62, 78. I was just like, oh my god, whatever number, just type in any number and see what happens. So there was some chaos in the creation of this build as well, I think. As you can see, this is really starting to look quite effective now at this point. Leave it there and move on and sort of center this lot within this old sort of paddock style. It's very British style paddock. Countryside wooden fence. And this is one of the objects that the tool mod wouldn't let me. You can see I'm going to test it here now. It wouldn't respond to me telling it to tilt. So I had to delete some of these and then use these posts to sort of imply that these vertical pieces of some continuing fence panels are still there, but the middle bits have blown out, and I'm then going to tier these sort of in a way where there's a gradient of angledness. Where are the words today? They're just not coming to me, are they? Where you can see where it almost looks like the explosions hit them harder, closer to the epicenter of where that house is burst open, and then the rest are angled but slightly less, and it tears back up to where the fence pieces haven't been affected. And I thought that looked quite good at the end of it. I did enjoy that. It's all creating the implication that there is an energy here that is completely invisible. And that was the fun sort of challenging part of this build, is to create the illusion that something is here that you can't see with the naked eye. So we're going to move inside, and I've done a sort of very basic inside with a staircase. And I forgot what we're going to do first. Okay, so we're going to do this library first, and the first thing I wanted to do was try and build a broken staircase, and this did not come out perfect, but the idea I think was interesting, so I wanted to try it anyway. But obviously I can't leave half of an upper staircase and just delete the bottom bit, because it's classed as one item, so I'm having to recreate the entire staircase. And I didn't want one half of the staircase completely broken and the other completely fine. So recreating the top bit to look like it was the same staircase was a little bit challenging, and it doesn't look perfect at the end. But here I'm just creating a little bit of the wall here that's been demolished. And again, I'm trying to like imagine a circular radius, almost like, when you see like mock-ups of an atomic bomb blast zone or something like that, and it's got like the epicenter, and then around it there's like rings of like lessering and lessering degree of how affected those areas would be. And that's what I'm trying to imagine here, almost like a small a small circle with different rings, and within each ring, if an object lies within it, it's been damaged to a certain extent, which gets lesser the further out I am. And that's what I'm trying to sort of mock up here, and I'm trying to explain. Using some beams here. They're the Love Struck. They're not called beams though. I type in beam every time I want to find this item, and they're not called that. They're called ceiling tiles. So then I remember that I have to just type in ceiling, because I always forget they're called tiles. Layering up more of these planks and placing some under the stairs to sort of imply the ones that have completely broken and just fallen to the ground. And then colouring in these, what are these called? Corbels? That's the word, isn't it? Which I've used to try and rebuild the staircase, and they don't completely match. I think this was a good attempt. If I was able to precisely colour match them, it would have looked great. But I wasn't able to do that, so you just have to pretend they're the same wood. Again, here I'm making it so that some of the wall's been affected here between the entry and the kitchen, but to a lessening extent the further out we get. Some of these vertical poles to, again, keep some of the structure there. I was trying to make it look like, imagining what a wall looks like when you remove everything. So this would obviously be like a wooden house rather than a brick one, where it's wooden and they've just put like plaster over it or something. I don't know if that's how a cottage is actually built, but that's how it is in this one, because that was the easiest way for me to demolish it. And now we're going to move up to, this is going to be the library. So this is where I'm going to work on creating a floor that looks like part of it's still intact and the rest of it is deleted. So I had to sort of delete a section of the floor here and then recreate it using the floor tool. So that's what's going on here, and just a little bit of reconstruction work. I'm not very good at creating floors, to be quite honest. I always forget how to do it and which bits I can delete and which bits I can't. And here we have this gap. So I'm trying to keep where the railing would have remained, and then also areas where the railing's just completely gone. And then I'm trying to make floorboards is what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to make sort of fragmented floorboard looking tiles where parts of the floorboards have fallen through, and there's some that are just sticking up that haven't completely detached, but they're all wonky from the explosion. And really, again, imagining that sort of circle, but in more of a 3D space here, because obviously it's a floor above. So now we've sort of moved on from imagining a blast zone circle to imagining a blast zone sphere. So it was a little bit technically and imaginatively complicated to try and do this in a way that looked effective and like things had been hit in a natural explosion kind of way. But I was trying my best in this, lowering some more of these planks in, again with the tool mod, because placing these, they were all placing a little too high, so I just needed to nudge most of them down just a little bit, just to align them with where the floor was. Otherwise I would have had to place them from the floor below and levitate them up, which would have been fine, except it means those would have showed when I was on the first floor, and I didn't want that. So now we're going to move on to one of the rooms that's not affected by this explosion, and it's the bedroom, which was quite an important room that, you know, obviously if you want to move a sim in here, they need somewhere to sleep. And I wanted to do this almost a little bit slightly gothic, I guess. I do change this bed, but I'm going with reds and blacks, and I'm using some of the sort of life and death pieces in this build, which I'm touching a lot of things that I wouldn't normally touch doing this, and it was a little bit refreshing, to be honest. And like I said, I've not put a huge amount of effort into the things here that aren't connected to the explosion. They're more just like, so they're okay, they're fine. They're just decorated in an okay way, as far as I'm concerned. I could have done more, but I was trying to keep the rest of the house in line with this very old style, slightly unhinged, witchy, you know, questionable whether they're a bad witch or just one who's not that good. And keeping all of these tones very sort of dark wood, which again, I'm normally a light wood person, so dark wood was a bit of a refreshing change here to try and make something a little bit... Would you call this dark academia? Because some people before have asked me to do something in the style of dark academia, and I'll be honest, I don't really know what that is. but when I look up pictures, it looks a little bit like this. So can this count? Can I count this as a dark academia, maybe? Even just like a 50% version? Okay, so we're going to move on to this desk area, and here I've wanted to place this desk because it's sort of irrelevant whether the desk's functional or not. So I have jumbled this desk up and made it look like it's been lifted with how the floorboards have lifted here. Placing some rugs, some sort of like witchy style wallpaper with moons and things on it. Or maybe is that witchy or is it more astrological? I don't know. There's a crossover there. I just don't know enough about either to know where it is. And we're going to put a bookcase here as well that I'm also going to tilt. And this is a bookcase that is from the Felix Chateau. It's a Felix Chateau bookcase. So I'm just, again, making it look like that's been tilted with the floorboards. And to finish that off, I'm actually going to place some books that look like they've fallen out of this and landed on these, what are those called? Floorboards, there we go. Words aren't coming to me. And then even on top of that, we're going to add some levitating books as well, which is what I'm going to move on to next when I finished tilting this one. And one of them especially is like, I think it's a witch tome from the like magic expansion or whatever, so it does have a glow to it as if there's something magical going on. But again, just tilting these round any old random way, just typing in any old number to create the chaos. Allow the chaos to be itself within this build in the numbers that I'm typing into the rotation section of the tool mod here. And there we go, it really looks like these have all been moved and levitated in some energy field. And we're going to put some picture frames here, which they're CC ones as well. But tilt them all and make them look like they've been shunted and they're just like, maybe they're still hanging on to whatever's mounting them to the wall, but they are definitely a lot more angled than they're meant to be now. Moving on to the kitchen, and I sort of mapped out how I wanted this already, which is why I'm able to build it so quickly. We're going to put some beams in here, a couple of them, to layer this up, because the ground floor is the medium level wall height. And I don't want the kitchen cabinets to be up there in Narnia where the sim can't reach them. A nice sort of country looking range. And again here I sort of made this in a way where everything in the kitchen was very conveniently positioned in a way where it's not been hit by this explosion, rather than it could have been along that wall that's completely demolished, but that would have been an absolute nightmare. So that just wasn't the case in this build. A little bar island area and some chairs, and I am going to tilt one of the chairs here. So I did protect the kitchen a little bit, because I don't know if it would have shown earlier, but I did make a kind of mirror thing. Presumably some kind of portal has been used to try and summon something and it's gone wrong, and that has actually, in the wall where the archway is, protected the wall and wooden pillars in the wall behind it. So the kitchen is designed to look a bit like it's had some kind of protection a little bit. But we're going to move on here and do, where are we? The living room. And again, I'm calling this Dark Academia. I've decided that that's what this is. I don't know what Dark Academia is, but this is it now. All of this dark wood, and I'm not going to show you all of the cluttering. I'm just going to do that and show you at the end as we go through. But I just wanted to make it look like there were all sorts of bits and pieces of like old pieces of furniture that have all been gathered, and not all of it particularly matches, but this person who lives here, this witchy person, is a bit of a hoarder. It's all just been shoved together in whatever which way. We're going to make some a little bit wall green. Wall green. Oh, the words. The eloquence is not here with me today. A little bit of a partition here. And what else are we going to do? Some plants, yes. Can never go amiss with some plants. And I will turn one of these sections where I've put the countertops into a little bit of a like plant nursery looking thing. And with that, we're going to see how this looks now with all of the clutter put in it. The living room lounge area. I did do a bathroom, you will see it. I just didn't show you the recording of that. And I'm going to move through, and it's going to transition to night as well, because I have lit this whole place up in very warm, sort of very fantasy, warm glow kind of lighting. And here with the kitchen, we've got the daytime area, all of these destroyed columns and things. And that's the portal I was talking about. You will see it from the outside as well. But you can see how the brick archway has sort of protected the kitchen a little bit. Transition to nighttime, and I've worked a lot on the outside lighting, which we'll see in a bit, to give it a very sort of magical glow to it. Moving up into the library, where there's all of these tilted pieces of furniture. Added a few extra bits, like a plant flying off the desk over there and a tilted lamp. I think I added a few more picture frames and things. But I mostly just cluttered and did the lighting. Moving outside. I do like how this turned out. Now into the bedroom. I put a little axolotl thing on the bed. I don't know why I did that. But I don't regret that choice. Because I think it was necessary. A few bits of jewelry and things. Try to just add a lot of like old looking trinkets in the way of clutter while doing this. Here's the bathroom. I don't show building bathrooms, but this one, I mean, as far as the bathroom goes, I quite like this one. It's quite dark and sinister, isn't it? I did like this bathroom. And here we are on the outside, and I've put just like tons more plants everywhere. But you can see a sort of vortex-looking flying platforms and things, and moving to night, and we have the whole glow of like a mix of purple and blue. That's the end. Thank you so much for watching. Be kind to yourselves, and I will see you in the next one.